Hi, today we're going to paint the red canoe. This is something a little bit different and I think you'll enjoy it, so let's get started. Let me run through the brushes real quick that we're going to use today. This brush is my background brush and it's a fairly wide brush. It's got about a size 12 number on it. And small background brush is like this. It's got the longer hair. It's a size 6. And then also in a bristle brush we need a fan brush and just a nice, this is a number 4, nice bristle fan. Be sure it's bristle and not synthetic because the synthetic ones won't work well. And then flat brushes we need, this is about a size, probably a size 8 or a 6 in a little flat sable. And then also in a sable you want a liner, just like a little number 1 or number 2 liner. And then for the detail, and especially to paint the little boy, something very small, you could use a little round pointed brush of some sort. This is my filbert brush. It's small and it has a nice little tip on it, so something little. And I think that's good for the brushes. And then let me run through the paint. Okay, these are the paints we're going to use. These are Mark F. Weber paints. It's the professional Permalba paints. And we'll start with white. This one's white. You have cad yellow medium, Naples yellow, raw sienna, raw umber, Payne's gray, sap green. This is ultramarine blue, and the last one is cad red light. So there's your color setup. And then besides that, I have a little cup here that has medium in it. This is liquid glaze. The medium is liquid glaze and it comes in a container that looks like this. This is a large one, but they also have it in smaller sizes. And then you need some brush cleaner. I have some odorless brush cleaner in this container, and you need something like that to clean your brushes as you go along. You need some paper towels, and then I think we're ready to get started on today's painting. So let's start with the sky. Okay, I'm going to start the sky using my background brush, so get the big brush. And when you mix your paint, folks, pull out some paint from the bottom of the stack. I'm just taking the brush because I brush mix everything. Take the white and pull it out here in the center where you can get to it. And then with the corner of the brush, go into your ultramarine blue, get just a little bit of it. These colors are really, really strong, so it takes a tiny little bit. If you think it's too blue, you can add more white. If you think it's too pale, then of course just put in some more blue. Get a blue that's something like that. I've got just a nice little soft blue. You could even, sometimes I'll even add just a speck of sap green to it, just a tiny bit. It makes a little bit more of a, I don't know, just a softer color. But something in that vicinity of color is what we're looking for, and I'm going to be working on the bottom corner of the brush. When you brush mix, don't work a whole big pile of paint. If I were going to do that, I'd use a palette knife. But brush mixing, you just want to keep the paint kind of down at the end of the bristles, so it's not going to get way up toward the ferrule. So just keep it like that. My paint's a little bit on the stiff side, so I'm going to dip into the medium and just loosen it up a little bit, so it's just a little bit easier to work with. So I added just a touch more blue there too. So now I'm going to come in on the bottom corner of the brush, just on the bottom corner, and work little short strokes. Rather than using the whole flat of the brush, I tip it, so I'm working on that side on the bottom corner. And we're going to leave some room unpainted for the clouds, so don't paint the whole sky, just kind of in the general sky blue areas is where we're working. And come on over to the trees. If you come down past the tree line a little bit, that's perfectly fine, because the trees tend to grow a little bit anyway when you put those in. And just remix your color as needed. If you run out of paint, pick up a little bit more white and blue and just kind of remix it. And again, just a little touch of medium, just enough to keep your paint moist so it gets down in the texture of your canvas. That's the idea. And come on over this way. Get enough blue in there, it's going to cover up all of the areas that need to be blue sky. You want enough paint on there that it covers the texture of the canvas, but not so much paint that it's just piled on there. There's kind of a medium amount of paint in there that's good. Now I'm leaving this area unpainted in there for our clouds, so that's your first step. Get your sky in. When you get your blue in there enough where you feel like you've got enough sky, you need to clean your brush out. Now some people like to use two brushes, one for light and one for dark, and don't have to clean the brush so often, but I've never done that. I just clean my brush, dip it in turp, and then dry it out really well with your paper towels, because you don't want it to be really wet. These bristle brushes tend to soak up the paint a lot, so that, or soak up the moisture, the turp a lot, and makes the paint too thin. So get them real dry. Kind of take a paper towel and squeeze and press so you're getting that moisture out of there, but don't scrub with your brush into your towel, because that ruins your brush. You want to take care of your brush. And then I'm going to pick up white with just a touch of Naples yellow, a tiny little bit of Naples yellow. Yellows are very, very strong. So we want white and just enough Naples yellow to make a soft off-white. And that will be your cloud color, and we're just coming right in there like that. I might add just, just Naples yellow and white. And we're just going to work on, again, on the bottom corner of your brush. You start in the unpainted area, and then you come out over the blue a little bit. So when you get to the blue, don't just stop. Go ahead and work out over it. Extend your cloud out over the blue for a soft, natural look. And just don't blend it to death. Just kind of, soften those edges over the blue and then get out of it. Get out of it before you blended it all gone. That should be plenty right there. All right, now let's start on this side only of the trees, and we're going to base it in. You can use the smaller brush or you can use the bigger brush. It's up to you. I think I'm going to go ahead and use the bigger brush here because it's a bigger area here. And this is a base coat that's going to have some ultramarine blue, just a little bit of Payne's gray could be added, a little Payne's gray, ultramarine blue, a touch of sap green would be fine. Just get a nice dark value. You're looking for this kind of dark, so don't let it look too greenish. It's just a mixture of some of these dark colors. Payne's gray, blue, a little bit of sap green. Work on the bottom corner of the brush, and we're just filling in from this edge right here. These trees are going to be a little further away there. We're going to come back and put some blue over them. But right now this is just a base coat of your dark trees. When you paint trees like this with oil paint, you always start with your darkest value, and then we'll put some highlights in it. So this will go in just like this. And you don't want your paint real heavy. Don't get a whole lot of paint in the brush, just enough to make it come out a dark mix. And you don't want the paint real heavy because we will be coming on top of it with highlights. So it sticks better if your paint is not real thick. It needs to be kind of stretched out. Not wet thin, but just not heavy paint. Bouncy strokes that scoot to the side work the best, I think, when we're putting in these trees. And when you get to the outside edges, you want those to look kind of soft against the sky. So I point my brush, kind of point at the direction of the edge of the tree, so you're turning the brush different ways as you come up to the top of the trees. And you'll probably pick up a little bit of the sky color, which also makes your trees look a little lighter at the top, and that's fine. Looks good. Little bouncy strokes that scoot to the side just a bit. Paint's gray, blue, little sap green. Nice dark mixes. And try to get your foliage a little uneven at the top. That looks more natural, like trees would look. We don't want it just a hard line at the top. That doesn't look like foliage. We want it to look like foliage. Okay, something like that should be enough right now. And we'll do this side. We'll put a little bit of blue on it in a few minutes, and then we'll do the other side. So we'll do one side at a time. When you get this side blocked in, I'm going to take a little bit of the sky blue, just kind of that same general blue you used in the sky, and tap a little bit of that in this portion of the trees. If you look, you can see some lighter values back there that's kind of a blue-white, and that's going to help to push this little area back a little further. Because blues and cool colors like that tend to make things look like they're further away, recede them back. So where this next grouping of trees is going to come across there, those are going to be lighter, brighter highlights. And we'll put this blue here so that pushes this back, and you'll have a nice contrast. These will go back, and this area here will come forward. But right in this lower part here, we're going to have some green in there in a few minutes and add some highlights on this. But the next step's just to get some of this blue tapped in on top of your base coat. Okay. Okay, we're going to put some light greens kind of down in here, over in here just a little bit. I'm going to use my fan brush for this. When you work with a fan brush to make foliage, you're going to tap with one corner of the brush. You're going to tap like that. And it's important how you load the brush. You're going to load it like you're pushing away from you. And I'm going to pick up some Naples yellow and just a little touch of the blue and a little bit of white. We want just kind of a light green. Actually, probably got a little bit of the yellow medium in there too, because this is a little brighter color. So it's white with your ultramarine blue and a little touch of yellow medium, just a little bit. You want a soft light green. The paint is going to be on the top corner of the brush. I'm loading it like I'm pushing away from me, and then when I turn it over, the paint's on the top right corner if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it'll probably be on the top left corner. Left-handed people usually know how to compensate. And then I'm coming in like this, and there's my paint, and I'm just tapping, checking my color to see if it's yellow enough. I think it could be a little more yellow. And add some more yellow and white to it so it looks brighter. And then just tap on that corner, create a little grouping of foliage, and then let it just kind of fade down into the shadows. A lot of yellow and white. There it goes. It needs to be heavier paint so I can see it better. And I'm tapping and then letting it just kind of fade down into the dark value. See, that creates a little grouping of foliage. Don't jump around too much with it. See, once you're tapping, let your little taps overlap each other You may have to put this on several times to get enough to show up. There it comes. You want it to look light enough to see it. Lots of yellow and white, because you're picking up some of this blue under here anyway. Little groups of leaves. I'm going to put some up here. You can put it wherever you feel like you need some. Just don't lose all of your dark background. You don't want to lose all of it, because that's your depth back in the trees. That gives them deep shadows back in there. Every time you load it again, remember to push away from you so the paint will be on the top corner of the brush. If you pull it toward you, the paint's underneath and it doesn't work the same. Okay, something like that would be good for your tree foliage. And I'll still have some of this blue over here that looks further away still showing, so that gives it a nice little bit of bright leaves. Let's move on now to the left foliage, and let's base this in just like we did that over there. So I'm picking up around in my dark values. You can use your Payne's gray. You can even have a little touch of raw umber in there, a little bit of sap green, just kind of anything that's dark goes on nicely for a base coat. We're going to come down to that top line. You can see there's a little drawn in line there. That's going to be where we're going to stop. And again, have just a little touch of medium in the paint that moistens it and smooths it out. And so you're taking the bottom corner of your brush again and just getting this all nice and dark. Payne's gray, little sap green, little ultramarine blue, anything that's dark. And this is again foliage, so you can have a little uneven, fluffy look at the top. I'm going to load the brush because I'm not working from a big pile of paint. I'll get up here where you can see it. I would just like pick up a little bit of Payne's gray, little sap green, a little bit of blue, maybe raw umber, anything that looks dark, and just make a loose mix of it. And then you're just filling it in, and then when I reload, I just kind of dip around in some of it again. So I mix it as I go, and we'll just keep coming until we get all of this blocked in. Try to keep the strokes more of a little bouncy stroke, especially at the top. Because if you start pulling down, it begins to look flatter, like a wall. And although this is just nice and dark values, we still want the idea that it's foliage. So you'll have a little variation of color even in the dark values. It'll have some variation. When this dark value overlaps what's behind it, it should look a little bit darker because you've got that blue working for you in that distant foliage. So something like this right here, and that's good for your base coat right now. Okay, once you've got your base coat in on this side, got our nice dark values in there, go back to your fan brush And again, I'm picking up my light color, same thing like we were doing over there. Pick up with your yellow medium, your white, a little touch of ultramarine blue, you make a light green. Sap green and white also makes a pretty green. You could do some of that just for a little variation with sap green and white or a touch of yellow in it. But again, your paint should be on the top corner of the brush. Now I loaded it like I was pushing away and then turn it so the paint is up, or it's going to come in like this. And I'm going to start right here on this little, where these trees are overlapping the other ones, and see if I can tap in enough highlight right here to put some light, bright values right there on that end of those trees. So it's heavier paint, so it comes out a little brighter. Let it work like a little group of foliage, a little grouping of foliage. And when you reload, again, remember to push away from you. And some of this color up here along the top, you start just a little above the trees. But keep your brush kind of sideways. If the handle is straight down and you're tapping straight down, you're going to get vertical lines. It's not going to look good for foliage. So if you can hold your brush sideways. If you're left-handed, it would go this way. So with the paint on the top of the brush, and you would do it like that. So still leave some dark though, folks. Don't highlight it to the point that you've lost all of your dark value. That can easily be done because you just keep tapping and pretty soon there's no dark left and it's all light colors. Because we need that dark back in there to make it look like you've got deep shadows between your clusters of foliage. You can just kind of skip over an area and then put another group in. Work your colors together. Don't jump around too much or you lose the feeling of a shape of bushes, little shapes in there, kind of rounded. I prefer the fan brush for this kind of foliage because I think it gives it a lighter, softer look. Some people have better luck with a flat brush, and you can use a flat. I'll do a little bit right here just to demonstrate. You can go back to your small background brush and tap with the end of the bristles. You just tap to get the foliage lighter and brighter on the top edge side of the foliage, and then just kind of lift up on the pressure and tap it down, still leaving some of the dark to show. So, if you're not comfortable with the fan, don't think you can't use a different brush. Different brushes can be used. See that? But the idea is brighter foliage fading into darker foliage, and then another group of lighter foliage that fades out kind of into the darker values, so it looks like it's got shape. And that's the idea. I'm going to come in and put a little bit of light kind of in between here, just to connect those a bit. It's going to look like lots of trees back there. That's our plan anyway. Lots of trees. Some of these, like I said, can come up into the sky a little bit. Some of your highlights doesn't all have to be down inside the foliage. Some of it can be outside of the foliage. And that's about to get enough, I think. We've got some, the dark still showing down there. Some of your highlights can be brighter. You can pick up additional heavy paint and put it right on the outside edge. That's where the light's catching it. Light is coming from the right in this painting, so your groups of foliage are going to be lighter on the right side. So, go for it. Okay, I think we've got our trees in pretty good now, so we're going to step on down to our bank. And this is a little dirt bank here. It's going to have some strong highlights on it to make it look like the light's kind of hitting on some rocks or something there. But using my detail flat, and I'm going to pick up white and a little touch of raw umber. Won't take too much because we don't want it a dark value. We want it with a lot of light, a lot of white in it. And might even pull in just a little touch of raw sienna with it. That looks better. So it's white, raw umber, and raw sienna. Kind of a dirt mixture, only kind of a light dirt mixture. Don't get it too dark. And then come right in under your trees. I want to catch a little bit of that dark from the trees and let that pull down into this bank too. We don't want to wind up with a hard line at the back of this little bank area. The ground just kind of melts back into the bushes and the trees in the shadows. So raw sienna, white, a little raw umber. Colors can vary a little bit. Because this is ground, and ground colors are going to have variation to them. So just kind of scoot it back and forth across. I'm coming down. If you stop at the second line there, that's good. But if you went all the way down, it doesn't really matter. We're going to put a dark line under there, put a shadow under the bank. But right now, just get all this in. White, raw sienna, touches of raw umber. If you can kind of use little short, choppy strokes, it looks more rough texture, like brown, rocky brown maybe. Way over here, as you move toward the edge of the canvas, your browns could get just a little bit darker. Don't like to put real light areas right at the edge of the canvas. It kind of pulls your eye away from the painting. So a little more dark maybe in through there. Okay, something like that. See, again, I'm catching some of that dark and letting it pull down into the bank. So that'll be your base coat. Now there's really not a bank showing over here on this other side under the trees, but if you want to straighten this line up over there, that would be fine. This will just go down into the water. The water will come up against it. That line needs to just kind of be a straight line. Okay, right under this bank, there's some raw umber, just kind of worked along at the very bottom of it. That's going to make your bank look like it stops at the edge of the water, makes it a little bit darker there, lifts it up just a bit from the water. And that's just straight raw umber. Swish it once in a while back into the dirt bank so it doesn't look like just nothing but a drawn in line. And then again, check back here under the trees and make sure it looks kind of swept back in under the trees so that straight line that you might have there is gone. And then we'll come in and tap in some white. I will come back and add just a little bit of white or kind of dirty white up here along on the bank in a few places just for like rocks or something with the lights hitting. So you got a dark line under and then tap in, just kind of space them along. Some white highlights or rocks or whatever. Paint's a little thicker on them so they'll look brighter. And they're not blended in so much. mostly kind of down here toward this end, not so much. Don't need to really take it all the way down. Okay, I'm gonna leave that bank alone for just a bit and come back to it maybe a little bit later when it tacks up a bit if I need more highlights on it. Right underneath the bank, there is a light tan area in the water that's actually it's kind of a reflection of the bank in the water. It's white with just a little touch of raw sienna. It's your darker yellow. Quite a bit of white with it, and I'm just going to run a little bit of that right underneath that dark line at the bottom of the bank. Just kind of using the same brush. It's just a little bit of kind of a light gold color, raw sienna and white. We'll lay it in and then just kind of take the flat of the brush and pull it down just a little bit. Some of this will get lost when we do the rest of the water colors. So lay it in right under the dark, take the flat of the brush and give it a little downward pull so it's starting down. Just about that much of your light yellow, raw sienna and white. Okay, we're going to work our water next. I mean, this is part of the water too. This brown is part of the water, but we're going to come in with the reflections of our trees. Water reflects what's above it. Water is clear, it has no color, but it's going to pick up the colors of anything that's above it. And so we're going to have some of these same greens down here in the water. As you move over toward the middle of the water, leave that area unpainted because we're going to have some blue in there too. But where I'm going to start is right in here with some dark values. They're on your palette. You should still have some of your dark mixes you used in the trees. We're just going to do this. We're going to come in, just watch a second. We're going to come in and pull some dark straight down. Use that flat of the brush most of the time. Sometimes I pull it sideways, but it's mostly flat. You're going to have some dark values, which is your Payne's gray with maybe a little bit of raw umber or blue in it. And I'm kind of overlapping into that brown color that we put in, that gold brown. And then we're also going to pick out some lighter greens. So you've got probably down your palette there where you mix some of these highlight colors. We're going to put some of that in there too. In other words, look it up here and see what you see. You see dark and light green values. And that's what we're going to put in right now. Downward strokes. When you look at water, you see those reflections going down in the water. That's why we're going to paint it going down. Now be careful, don't wipe your little boy out because we're not coming down that far right now. He's going to have blue behind him. This is kind of like this. And, you know, keep some of it darker and some of it lighter. We don't want just everything dark. You can put strokes on top of strokes. But when you paint still water, you're going to paint it with downward strokes and paint the reflections so that you're seeing what's above in the water below. Sometimes I'll come back and put more dark on top of the light green just so you've got some variation to your colors. This green's going to come down maybe about halfway. I'm not pulling it all the way down to the bank. A little bit of medium helps move your paint too. You want these variations of color. When you get it about down to where I'm at here, I think the rest of this is going to have quite a bit of blue in it, so I'm going to quit there. And because I know this will dry fairly quick, because I'm using just a little bit of paint and medium, when you get to there, I'm going to take my brush and ever so lightly on like the side of the brush, do little back and forth strokes so it looks like your water has got wiggles in it, like, you know, reflections, and the wind is kind of blowing across the reflections and distorting them. So it's down and then across. Because if I let it go too long, it might get too dry and I couldn't move it. So I'll do it a little bit at a time here. Now this is not a heavy scrub, because if you come in and just rub it and scrub it, you're going to take out all the downward strokes. The idea is to make them look distorted, blurry, like ripples in the water. And then we'll pick up some other colors. Okay, get that far. Okay, we've got a little bit of light green way back here in the back. Take one of your very lightest greens that you've got there on your palette. One of your lightest green mixes with a lot of yellow and white in it. And pull just a little bit of that down right under these distant trees. We're going to have a little bit of green reflecting. And then we're going to switch into the blues. And I'm going to clean the brush once you get that light green in.
On the light green, do you need to go all the way over?
Go over to this little bush right
Okay.
here. Yeah, that's a little bush there, so we'll go that far. And then with a clean brush, I'm going to pick up blue and white, ultramarine blue with a little white. Kind of a light to mid-tone. We don't want to get it too dark. A lot of white, actually. And we're going to come on down under the green, and then we kind of start your blue below the green, not right exactly under it, but leave a little space in between, and then you can just brush the two colors together. So you're starting a little below the green. And then put it in, kind of a light blue. This is a light blue, quite a lot of white. And then when you get down here to this little boy, we're going to have to go around him with a very small brush. We don't want to lose him. So I'm going to go to the detail flat and a little touch of medium, and this is some of that light blue, lots of white. Lots of white. A little bit of blue, and we're going to carefully paint around him. He's got a little bit of blue under his arm against his stomach there too. Don't lose that little area, and there's some under his leg. There's a little bit of water. Light blue. You're working that lighter blue, let's come on around the boat where it sticks out there in front of the, or over the water. Let's get a little bit of that filled in around the boat too, so we don't lose it as well. Once you get away from the little boy, you can come back in with some darker blues, slightly darker. None of it's real dark. Keep your strokes going down so you get that little shine in there so we can go across again. As I come on down, I'm picking up blue. I've got just a little bit of sap green in it too. I can see some green mixed in with the blues. This is darker. Little touch of medium helps, but all of this area right in here is kind of mid-tone to slightly dark. But don't make it so dark it's just black. You want some light in it too. But it's blue and white with just a little bit of sap green. Water reflects things, you know, I mean it can look kind of blotchy because of all of the various things it's reflecting in the water. Keep on the flat of the brush, keep some little bit of medium in the brush so the paint's slightly thin, and keep your strokes straight down. So it's that combination of pulling down and then across that makes your water look shiny. And gives it that motion. Again, this is blue and white with a little bit of touch of sap green. Needs to be backed up a little bit, yeah, so they can see the whole thing. Right under this bank, there's that little bitty bank sticking out over there that needs a little bit of something dark under that bank too, so that sets it against the water nicely. When you've got this covered in, I'll come around and check and make sure that you're okay. But then we're going to take our little detail flat and just very lightly, again, distort all these downward lines, give it that little distortion back and forth. Don't push too hard, remember. All you want to do is just kind of show those little wiggly back and forth movement lines in the water, and that will come by just letting these colors kind of scoot across real lightly, very, very lightly. Okay. See where everybody's getting. Okay, now then let's pull this together back here before we leave all this. Yeah, all this needs to come together.
And it was blue, white, and
A little sap green.
sap green.
They kind of
which is
finish it
right
off,
there.
yeah.
Okay.
A little bluer than you've got right there, because you're gonna use some of that sap green that's already there, your dark green. Little-
You go ahead and lose that there.
Here's that, yeah, you're gonna lose that.
Okay.
Just down here to
Yeah, you didn't say that when you were recording, so
Oh,
I wanted
yeah.
to check.
Any kind of little sticks and twigs, you're always gonna take those out. Okay, after the water is pretty much in, like we've got it, let's go ahead and paint the little boy, or the little man, whatever he is here. And be sure that you've worked your water right up against him so that there's no unpainted canvas around him. And then we want to go to a very small brush, something, a little pointed brush, or my little filbert brush is ideal if you have it. It's got a nice sharp little point. And we're going to start with a flesh tone color, and you're going to mix that with white and a tiny touch of cad red light and a tiny touch of Naples yellow. Lots of white, but just a little bit of Naples yellow, a little bit of cad red light. If you get it the color too dark, just add more white, because you want kind of a skin tone. And when you find that skin tone, try it and see if he looks too yellow or too red. If he's too red, he's been out in the sun too long. He's just kind of a pinky yellow color, and paint his back, his little face. He has no features, so we just paint his face and his little arm coming down. And his leg. Now he's got to have a little bit of shading, so he'll have some shape to him. So get his skin tones in. Okay, so you've got his skin tones on there, and then I'm wiping the brush off a little bit and picking up just a tiny little bit of raw umber. Just a little bitty bit, because we've got to give him some shadows, like under his chest and his stomach. Put a little bit of raw umber, just a tiny, tiny bit on your brush. Going to give him a little shadow, and kind of under the arm, a little bit under the arm, and a little bit under the leg. Maybe there's where his shorts stop. And he's got dark hair. So again, a little bit of raw umber. Paint his hair. But the dark shadows will kind of help to make him look like he has some shape to him. And his shorts are a dark blue. Just enough shadows under him to give him some shape. Well, he's got a little white highlight on his back too. There's just a little bit right there, kind of on the very bit of his back there. There's a little bit of extra white. I think my little guy needs to be a little pinker. shorts bluer? You can zoom in
I
on
can't.
it.
Close as you can go.
Oh, is that as close as it can go?
Now, what color was his hat?
Oh, his hair is dark brown, raw umber.
Raw umber?
He doesn't have a hat on, he's just got hair. And his shorts are kind of a dark blue. And then underneath him, he's gonna have some burnt umber, like a shadow, kind of. That'll help him to sit down.
I think he needs long hair.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, he does have a suggestion of another arm that's just a little bit of dark, kind of a dark brown or something that comes out from the other side there, kind of almost parallel to the arm that we've had on the picture. Kind of comes out toward his knee like he was holding on to his knee. And that's about it on him. He's got, like I said, there's a little dark under him, a little bit of raw umber under him, and then back here, there's some dark kind of area there. And I've laid a little, maybe it's a towel or a jacket or something, but there's a little bit of red. Just kind of smudge it right into that dark area, so there's just a little bit of red there. It can be whatever it is, it doesn't matter, I just wanted a little touch of color. And that's him. Okay, after you get the little boy done, or pretty much done anyway, let's move on. We're gonna move on up here and paint this bush. There's a dark bush up here, and then we'll come on down with our ground. So I'm going to switch brushes now and go back to the small background brush, this brush here. And we're going to put some dark values in the bush. Pick up your Payne's Gray and Raw Umber, maybe a little blue. Some dark values like we've used before. And just kind of scrub in a little base coat of dark. You could leave a little bit unpainted toward the top if you wanted to leave a little open. That makes it easier to get your light colors to stick. So maybe just about that much, and leave some of that area up there at the top unpainted.
What were those colors again, Dorothy?
Just Payne's Gray and Raw Umber would be fine. Just something dark. Okay, so after your base coat is in, I'm going to go back with my fan brush, or you can use continue to use your flat bristle if you'd rather. I'm picking up some Naples yellow and maybe whatever light greens you might have there on your palette would work fine, and just come in and tap the rest of, if you left some area unpainted, go ahead and fill that in, type the rest of it in with your light greens. And then come on down into the bush a little bit more with some additional highlights. You can use some sap green and white. That makes a nice light color, green. But your bush will look like a bush if it's darker at the bottom and lighter at the top. That makes it look like it's standing up. Yellow medium always makes a nice lighter value, and a little bit of color at the bottom, but just a little darker at the bottom, lighter at the top. That'll give you a nice bush shape. Kind of make it look more uneven if you can, rather than too round a ball shape. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to paint the ground, starting up here under the bush, and we're going to paint down to the boat and about to the bottom of the boat, and then we'll stop and paint the boat. I don't want to get the ground painted under the boat because you may want to set your hand down here as you paint the boat, so we'll keep that dry. But up here, we're going to start again, and I'm using my small background brush. I may use some of the detail flat also, but starting right in under the bush, I'm going to pick up a little bit of raw umber, kind of dark, and then we don't want to make it too dark because this ground is kind of on the light side. I pick up a little bit of white and raw sienna. I'm kind of working with little patting strokes that scoot to the side just a little bit. You want to follow the angle of the ground. The ground is sloping a little bit here, so it comes down like a little bank. And if it looks too dark, just pick up some straight white and just kind of pat on top of it. But try not to smooth it all out to make it all one color. We want a lot of variations of color in this. This is dirt and rocks and stuff that you normally find along a riverbank. And where this bank kind of drops off down toward the water, it can be a little darker with some more raw umber there, so that makes it look like it's sitting down right in the water, right on the water. But the idea is to keep it kind of textured a little bit so it does look like you've got gravels and rocks and stuff in there. So this color is kind of a mixture. It's got raw sienna and white. It's got a little bit of raw umber. And you can put color on top of color, but again, just don't smooth it out to the point that it's all one color. And just come on down the bank. When you want it lighter, use more raw sienna and white. When you want it darker, pick up a little raw umber. A lot of raw sienna and white is nice in there too. And over against the edge of the canvas, I've worked in a little bit of raw umber, so it does have that in it too. After we get a base coat on this, I came back with a little smaller brush and some white and made some rocks and gravels and that sort of thing. But we got to get this base in here first. So when you come in close to the boat, it might be a good idea to switch to a smaller brush so you don't accidentally wipe the boat out. I'll go into my detail flat so I can come up right against the boat without losing the boat. A little bit of medium in the paint helps it to move and keeps it from getting too thick and heavy. Craig, where does your fiance live? Is she local or
Yeah, she's in Springfield.
in Springfield? So where did you meet her?
Church.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think you told me that before, I'd forgotten.
Keep this stuff looking kind of choppy. Now once you get these base coats in here, you can come in with a little more white on the top of your brush and do little short choppy strokes, kind of scoop to the side a little bit. The white is up and it looks like little rocks, little gravels, rocks. Okay, so up here at the top of this bank, you can also lay in a little more just white, make it look somewhat lighter there, so it looks like you're looking over the bank to the water. But anytime you've got this white on the top of the brush and want to create that little rock effect, you just set it down and give it a little pull. Don't bounce, don't go straight in so that you're just dabbing at it. Set it down and scoot it to the side just a little bit. Makes it look rocky. And if you want a little darker value on the bottom side of the rock, you can double load the brush. You put dark on one side, turn the brush over and put light on the other side. Don't load the corners. I'm loading one whole flat side of the brush with the light and then the dark. And do your little pull stroke. But you can do lots of little rocks, lots of little gravels and stones and stuff on your ground with that kind of a stroke, and it looks good. Gives it texture like you would see along a little gravel bar. Okay, we're going to start with the inside of the canoe, and right here in this little tip, you got some little boards across there, little support boards, but inside of that it's dark. So I'm picking up a little raw umber and a touch of Payne's Gray, just a small amount, and put it, see, it's right inside this little pointy end. Don't go to the outside edge. There's going to be a light blue edge, which you can see around there, but right in this little area right here is dark. And I wiped out the little boards that you see across there.
What color?
That's raw umber and Payne's Gray. And I'm going to come along underneath the edge of the top of the canoe, top of the side, with the same color. A little bit of dark there.
So cover up that one board.
These little end boards gets covered up.
I won't cover up these boards that's in the middle there, the seats, but then wipe your brush and pick up Cad Red Light. And fill in with Cad Red Light down to the seats. This is gonna look really, really red. We'll dull it down in a minute, just a little bit. And kind of blend it into the dark. You don't want to lose the dark. You may have to pick up just a little more Payne's Gray right there to blend those colors together. A little bit. And actually you could work just a little touch of Payne's Gray over that red. It keeps it from being quite so bright red. And then you're going to go in between these seats. There's 3 seats. So there's 2 of these little red spaces in between. And then over here's more red. Inside the Canoe only right now. Okay, after you've got the inside blocked in like that, let's go ahead and paint the outside of the boat. And it starts out pretty red right here on this end. So again, this is your Cad Red Light. Around the curve of the boat. And then all kind of in this middle part has got a little bit of raw sienna picked up with the red. Which gives it just a little bit of an orangey look. A little raw sienna, maybe, yeah, I was going to say maybe a touch of white. Maybe just a little bit of white with the raw sienna. Get this in first, and so it's kind of a loose, just kind of a loose mixture of the raw sienna with the red. A little touch of medium helps too. Thin it down a little bit, it goes along better. You start thinking you see too much raw sienna, put some more red in it. Just kind of vary the colors. Try not to make it all one flat color. If you can leave some interesting brush strokes and a little variation of color in there, it's going to look better. More natural. And after you get this red and sienna in there, there's going to be some raw umber, but that's going to go in on top of what we've done here. So get this red and sienna colors going on here. Come all the way up to the rim of the boat, but don't lose the rim. It'll be a different color. And then you're going to pick up a little bit of raw umber, and you're going to put a little bit of that just kind of on top of these other colors, but it's not solid by any means. Look at your picture. You can see it's just got little streaks of raw umber in there. It makes it look kind of worn or dirty a little bit. Just a little bit of raw umber. right at the bottom of the canoe too is gonna be more, raw umber down here at the very bottom of the canoe. And kind of pulled up onto the side a little bit, just for shading, if nothing else, because when it's, the canoe is sitting, and this is the shadowed side, so at the bottom of it, it's gonna look darker. A little bit of extra raw umber there. Okay. I painted out that middle seat. I thought it looked a little too close to the others, so I just erased it right there as I was putting that in. So if you see three seats on the pattern and 2 seats here, that's why I just decided to take one of them out. So you can either take it out or leave it in, either way. Okay, after we got the sides in, let's go ahead and finish it off by well, we've got 2 things to do. We've got this little square here at the end of the boat, which I'm not really sure what that is. It was in the picture of the boat I was using, so I guess it's something, but not sure. Then with the edge of your brush and a little bit of raw umber, and you don't need to get this on here real thick because we have a light blue that's coming on top of it, but let's go ahead and get the edges of the boat worked in and the seats. And then again, this is just a little bit of raw umber on the bottom of the brush. Bottom side of the brush. The seats. And once the dark is in there, then you can switch to a real light blue-white. And just kind of go over the edge again. You'll still see some of the dark in there. Just use the side of the chisel brush. I guess you could use a liner if you would rather, but I think the chisel edge of the brush actually works better. Liner makes awfully thin line unless you get it a little bit heavier, but if you've got a pretty decent chisel edge on your brush, that gives it a better, softer look. So it looks better. You have to reload your brush pretty frequently, but because you can't go too far without running out of paint, so you got to get more on your brush, kind of a little edge, and kind of highlight the seats a little bit. There's a little light edge on top of that dark square also. Once that is done, your boat should be completed. Oh, there's those little lines that we wiped out there in the right in the end of the boat. I'm just putting those back in there, a little blue.
Up the right side.
upper left, right here. Or just on the left end, let's say. With a line across and then a little line down. That should do it. Right under the canoe, there's going to be a lot of raw umber because this is very shaded right here. The canoe is casting the shadow. So you want to lay in some raw umber and then kind of pull it out just a little bit away from the canoe. So that creates a nice shadow for it. And some of that dark actually is up on the side of the canoe as well. Anyway, once you get away from the canoe, and right in this area, right here at the point up here, that's lighter because you're seeing past the canoe to the ground. So this little bit right here would be lighter in value. Some raw cyan and white maybe there. And once I get away from the canoe far enough that I can, I'm going to switch to my bigger brush, go to the small background brush. And we're going to fill in the rest of our ground area. And this is again going to be variations of raw sienna and white, a little bit of raw umber, and some medium. Be sure and work with some medium so your paint isn't real thick and gummy. And vary your colors a bit. Keep your strokes short. See how much texture you can give while you're just basing in. Because that way you don't have quite so much to go back and try to achieve more texture if you get some little short choppy strokes with variations of color as you go. That gets a little bit of it already done. A little bit more dark out there from the canoe for the shadow it's casting, and continue on down here. And this bigger canvas takes a little bit more in the foreground here. Probably a little bit of greenery over here in this far left corner. There's gonna be a few little bushes and sticks and twigs. That's just something that'll fill in this corner when we get all the base coat in here. And of course, we're gonna have to pull a little bit of the rock texture around from the boat over in this general area. We wanna see some more of the little gravelly looking rocks. And then some twigs and grasses and stuff over here in this corner, and that will finish it off. Okay, so there's the base coat. Once you've got that in, see, I've got quite a bit of variation of color even in that. And then you can actually chop in a few more little white rocks. We don't want them just to stop when we get to the boat. We want some of this to come all over into the foreground. Little choppy texture. And we'll see where we go from there. Okay, after this ground is all based in here, you want to come back over it with some of the rock texture like you did on the other side of the boat. And again, the light or the white, whatever's your light value, is on the top of the brush and you're pulling it sideways. Excuse me. And these strokes are just very, very random, so that some strokes even wipe out others that you've already done. So that makes it look more textured and get the feeling of all those little gravels and rocks, maybe little sandy areas in between. Put in however much you feel like you want to do till you think it might be enough, and then it's time to quit. And then down in this lower corner, I'm going to put some little grasses, bushes, or weeds, or something to kind of fill in the corner. Using my fan brush, I'm going to start with a little, this is just a little dark green. I've got some sap green, a little bit of ultramarine blue in it, or Payne's gray, any of those dark values. And let some of your little weeds come up over the water. Make them look kind of tall. And that kind of fills that corner in. Otherwise, it's an awfully lot of ground with nothing of interest going on. You can have little bits of greenery out here in the gravels also, just here and there. A little bit of Naples yellow. I'm going to add some of that in there for highlights. at the very last. I've saved all the little twigs and sticks and so forth for the very last. And I thin the paint with turp for this stuff. The medium's a little bit thick, so I like to thin it with turp. That makes it thinner, wetter, and it marks off better. And right in through here, we'll start with some little dead branches and little twiggies of some sort. And you can add more or less little branches, whatever you want to do. Put a few little tall weeds out here in the gravels. Again,
So
that
what do you do,
just
go
kind
back and just crash?
of breaks it up. Over here, a few little weeds maybe. And way up here in the top, if you want to move up that way, the top right, coming from behind this big bush is like an old dead tree. And this is an optional thing to put in, but it kind of fills in the corner. It has to be very dark or you won't see it at all. It's pretty, pretty. How you doing? Looks good. That's okay. You're looking good. Okay, that's about enough twigs, I think. You can add as many or few as these as you want. You don't want to get too many. It can get a little bit busy. But anyway, I think it's about time to call this one done. And don't forget to sign your name, because sometime you'll wish you had if you forget to sign it. And somebody will wonder in years to come who it was that painted that beautiful painting. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this one and see you next time. Bye-bye.